That go.
LD, go for launch.
Right on time. Always love to hear that call out. T-minus 30 seconds and counting. All systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with the Intuitive Machines lunar payload.
T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Intuitive Machine.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
And looking forward to the number.
Falcon 9 carrying IM-2's lunar lander Athena has successfully lifted off at pad 39A. We're heading to the moon. We heard the call out of the pitch kick. That's a small tilt of the vehicle. We're still going pretty much straight up, but now we're also slowly heading horizontal.
We heard that call out for power and telemetry nominal, and once we reach orbital altitude, we're going pretty much horizontal to the Earth. The rocket needs to go about 17,000 miles per hour.
9 is supersonic.
Horizontally. We heard that call out. We are supersonic, and in just a few moments, we will pass through max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure, on the booster.
Max Q.
We're through max Q, and the Merlin 1D engines have throttled back up to full power. Next call out we ought to hear is MVAC chill. Falcon 9 data is continuing to look good as the first stage heads out over the Atlantic Ocean. Trajectory looking good on Falcon 9. Now we're going to have a few events coming up in quick succession. We're going to start with MECO, main engine cutoff. That's the point during the flight where we shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Then we'll go into stage separation, and then SES-1, which is the second stage engine start number 1.
And shortly after MECO, stage 1 and 2 will separate from each other, with the first stage booster beginning its trip back down to Earth, while the second stage engine starts for the first time, known as SES-1, where the single Merlin vacuum engine on board the second stage will light up. This is happening in just a few seconds.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back ignition.
Call-outs of 3 good events. You heard it, and you should have seen it there on the webcast. MECO Stage 7, SES-1. Now, the first stage is not powered. It's shut down. Great views coming from the second stage cameras, as we have just had sunset a little while ago at Kennedy Space Center. The first stage is now coasting to apogee. That's the view on the left side. We're slowly turning using cold gas thrusters. We're turning to orient the engines into the direction of flight. Also, you may have been able to make out in a little bit of the light, the titanium grid fin deployment is underway. We're using pneumatic gas pressure.
Confirmed.
And here comes fairing separation. And a beautiful view. Looking at Athena and the ride shares on top of the second stage stack. So we had good fairing
Vehicles
separation.
are on a nominal trajectory.
Trajectory's nominal. First stage is looking good as it coasts to apogee. Second stage under power. Yome, everything continuing to look good right now on the mission.
Yeah, we are at just over T plus 4 minutes into today's mission. IM-2 is SpaceX's 24th launch this year, and we are currently in the first of two planned MVAC burns. Around the T plus 6 minute mark, you should see on your screen the first stage's entry burn. It's currently making its way back down to Earth. And for that entry burn, we will relight 3 of the M1D engines on the first stage, starting with the center engine, followed shortly by the engines next to it, which will slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. Now we need to slow down the first stage to reduce re-entry forces, which will help us recover and reuse that first stage. And you can follow along on your screen to the telemetry on the bottom left and right of your screen for the stage 1 and stage 2 speeds and altitudes.
Now you may have noticed on the left side of your screen, first stage altitude has begun dropping. We have reached apogee, and now we are under the pull of gravity headed back down to the Atlantic Ocean. Now to slow us down, we'll use that entry burn. And that means we're firing 3 Merlin engines to decelerate the Falcon 9, but we'll still be moving very rapidly. And that's going to cause the vehicle to fly through the Merlin exhaust gases. It's also known as the rocket's plume. And this will deposit a layer of soot on the vehicle surface, one of the signatures of a flown booster. Now that soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses. Now it took us almost 2 minutes since separation to get up to apogee. It's going to take the rocket just as long to bring the first stage back down to the edge of the atmosphere for the entry burn coming up in just about 20 seconds or so. Now, as a reminder, the first stage that's supporting today's mission is performing its entry burn for the 9th time. Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital reusable rocket. This is important because it's that reusability that allows SpaceX to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket, and that in turn drives down the cost of space access.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
There's that call out for entry burn startup, and this will be about a 30-second burn, slowing that first stage down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
There you can see the end of that entry burn on the first stage. And on your right, you can see the second stage still in the first of 2 planned burns carrying the Intuitive Machines 2 payload to the moon. Now coming up next, we will shut down our MVAC engine on the second stage, followed quickly by the landing burn on our first stage. And the second engine cutoff of this first burn will be in just about 30 seconds at the T plus 7 minutes and 46 second mark.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
You can see on your bottom right the speed of the second stage accelerating as we are in that burn.
Stage 1 transonic.
Stage 2 STS is saved.
MVAC shutdown.
There's that call out for MVAC shutdown. We should be getting a confirmation of a good orbit as
Stage
well as
1 landing burn.
there is that stage 1
Nominal
landing
parking
burn.
orbit.
And that confirmation of a good orbit on stage 2. Let's watch stage 1 come back home.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Awesome views of that first stage landing. There you have it. That was the 413th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Heavy.
Oh, first stage is back on the drone ship. Beautiful mission. Second stage is in the parking orbit in our low Earth orbit. Now the mission does continue in space with stage 2. Coming up next, we have the second burn of our MVAC engine. We call that SES2. And that'll be the second stage burn around the T plus 36.5 minute mark. And we'll follow that with spacecraft separation.
Again, we are coming up on that second engine startup 2 in just a few seconds here. Again, this will be about a 60-second burn.
MVAC ignition.
That's the call out for MVAC ignition. It's always cool to see that MVAC nozzle start glowing in the middle of the burn. We are about 30 seconds into our 60-second planned burn on the second stage, carrying Athena and the rideshare payloads to the moon.
MVAC shutdown.
There is that call out for MVAC shutdown. We've completed that second burn of the second stage. Just waiting on confirmation of
Nominal orbit insertion.
There is that confirmation for a good orbit, and it looks like we are on track for spacecraft separation in just a few minutes.
It's been a great launch so far. Coming up 38 minutes since we had the liftoff. And now we're waiting for that IM-2 lander to separate from Falcon 9's second stage. A little bit of a recap while we're waiting for that. That comes in a little under 6 minutes from now. We had an on-time liftoff shortly before 7:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Everything has proceeded nominally. 2.5 minutes into flight, we got stage separation. We also saw the successful landing of Falcon 9's first stage on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, and that made the 9th landing for this first stage. Now, about T plus 7 minutes, 46 seconds, we had a successful second stage engine cutoff, SECO 1, and we heard the call out of a good parking orbit insertion. Now, that was the first of 2 burns of the second stage engine, and we just saw the second burn of that engine complete. And we also are in a good transfer orbit right now. Pay attention on the bottom right to the altimeter. We didn't change altitude very much during the 1-minute burn, but you can see we're starting to move away from Earth now. Now the vehicle is coasting at this point in time. Payloads are still attached as we're counting down towards the separation of the Athena lander. Now currently the second stage is in a coast phase, as I mentioned. We are essentially making sure everything is quiescent on the stage. We're venting down pressures. We're making sure that overboard vents are done so that nothing, for example, burps during flight. We want Athena, when we send the separation command from the flight computer, to just be moved away with the power of the springs and not have any jostling if, say, the second stage inadvertently vented something at that time. So we're making sure everything is quiet on the second stage. Now we're under 4 minutes to separation, and we're getting great views of the second stage as it prepares to separate the IM-2 lander to begin its 8-day journey to the moon. And of course, given the way spacecraft want to be oriented to the sun, for example, to make sure when they separate, they get power onto solar cells. If you're wondering why we have a camera pointed right at the sun, well, that's a requirement of the customer to make sure that the spacecraft gets nice and warm, gets a lot of power, everything looks good. Now, we talked about the 8-day journey to the moon. The Athena lander is carrying science and technology investigations from CLIPS that will help pave the way for humans to live and work at the moon. And today's mission is the second eclipse mission for Intuitive Machines. Now we're waiting right now, separation coming up a little under 3 minutes. Getting some more views. We're cycling, the flight computer is cycling between the various cameras on stage 2. Got a view of the nozzle. As we heard earlier in the broadcast, that'll make a large maneuver as they get to the moon. But right now, everything is quiet on the lunar lander. Here's a view of the nozzle extension, one side. Here's the other camera at the back end of the second stage. The silver blanket that you see there, that's multi-layer insulation. We put that over the back end. That keeps all the valves underneath and the electronics warm and cool. Warm from the chill of darkness and the vacuum of space, and also helps insulate it from the hot radiative plume when we fire that second stage engine.
That's some cool views of the sunrise on the coming up from the Earth's horizon over there, which is very cool. Very cool to see.
"42 minutes, everything continues to be nominal on the second stage." Now, just to give you an idea of where we've been, where we're going, in about 1 minute, we are going to get deployment of Intuitive Machines 2 lunar lander, named Athena. We had the launch. We got into orbit with the first burn of the engine you see there on the screen. We just finished the second burn about 5 minutes ago, and we are in a coast phase on stage 2, making sure everything on the stage is quiet, do final vents, and then make sure that the stage is very stable, it's not moving around. And then we'll see deployment. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure which camera views we're going to get at deployment. Now, once we do the deployment, we then start another sequence that takes about 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and then we will get to the rideshare deployments. We'll have one, and then every 20 seconds, and then 20 seconds after that. Right now, we're just counting down, waiting for deployment. So let's listen into the countdown net.
There is that deployment. You can see IM-2 Nova C lunar lander named Athena floating away from Falcon 9's second stage, confirming spacecraft separation. Now, from all of us here at SpaceX, we are wishing the IM-2 lander a good flight and safe travels. SpaceX is honored to be a part of Machines for entrusting us with today's historic mission to the moon. Now, while we wait for the next development, let's bring in Tahira and Josh back at KSC.
Yo, man, that was absolutely gorgeous. What an excellent throw from SpaceX. Tahira, what do you think of that shot?
It is unreal, literally. It's so gorgeous.
Right now, we're going to continue to listen in. Simultaneously, we have Intuitive Machines Nova Control in Houston, Texas. That's going to be waiting for acquisition of signal. That's Athena's first call home, while also Machines mission control
Athena
confirming
separation confirmed.
Athena separation confirmed. And Tahira, while we stand by and keep running this clock for about 5 minutes after launch vehicle separation, that's when we expect Athena to make that first call home. At the same time, John I and Yomei in Hawthorne, California will be calling out those ride-share deployments.
And Com and Raven, let's
The views
tell
on screen.
Scuba to stand by, and let's focus on Singapore and T-Knot.
Yep, on screen you're looking at Intuitive Machines Nova Control on the left, and you're looking at the second stage views on the right with SpaceX here.
Just gorgeous views. Look at that Earth. That's us.
Absolutely incredible. A lot of things are happening right now. It's a very dynamic situation where Athena's preparing to make that first call home.
Seconds. Post open 7.
We're counting out the time that since Athena has separated, and that's because at launch vehicle separation, Athena starts a countdown to when she can
Procedure
power
says
on.
1 minute 47 is the earliest time for transmit. We are at 1 minute 55.
All right,
Copy.
1 minute 55 here. Let's go ahead and pause and listen into the loops here as we listen to Intuitive Machines
Ground
Mission
keep
Control,
active comm. Give us anything you got from the ground station.
as well as SpaceX and Hawthorne waiting for those rideshare deployments. Let's just listen in here.
AD permission back to TMAC for a second.
Here we go.
Those calls you just heard are the ground net stations that you're looking at right now inside of Nova Control, waiting for the ground stations on Earth to acquire Athena's signal. We're standing by in Houston for Athena making that first call home, standing by in SpaceX Hawthorne for waiting for those 3 rideshare deployments. We expect all of these things to be happening simultaneously.
And Josh, right now from Hawthorne, we should be about 30 seconds away from starting that sequence of rideshare deploy. First up should be Astroforge's Odin. 20 seconds after that, Lunar Trailblazer. And then 20 seconds after that, Epic's Chimera. Odin deployed, as you heard over the net.
Right after the IM status, Odin's away.
Lunar Trailblazer, separation confirmed.
Lunar Trailblazer away.
We heard the call out in the acknowledgement. Lunar Trailblazer separated. Wait about another 10 seconds, and it'll be Chimera.
Yeah, comm. We
Chimera
will have an
to
OEM for them. Priority right
separation
now is
confirmed.
Singapore.
Chimera away.
Understood.
All spacecraft are separated.
4 minutes 15 seconds past that.
All right.
Now Josh Tahira, Falcon 9 second stage has sent its commands. Everything successfully deployed. Now we're waiting the word from you all on acquisition of signal from Athena.
Thanks a lot, John. We're still listening in to Intuitive Machines'
And
Nova
White MD
Control.
on IM status, waiting for 1909 for our window to open for visibility on the first station.
That's flight controllers waiting for that window to start listening in for Athena to make that call home. We're just about inside of that expected window for her to make that first call to Hero. We expect Athena.
We're still standing by for connection with TNOC. Is that correct?
That's good readback.
We're getting.
Should I enable randomization?
Yeah, we're getting some information. We're waiting for visibility at our first ground station to hear. Those are the large radio astronomy dishes on Earth that are needed to make that connection to Athena out in space. What she's doing right now is autonomously commissioning. That's a process where she's turning on her power systems, getting into max power attitude. That's pointing that top deck solar array right at the sun, making sure we're getting good power coming through. Again, I'm just getting a little bit of information here that the visibility of the first station, that first ground station, to make that connection with Athena, 1909. So probably here just in the next couple of minutes, Mission Control is just going to be standing by for that opportunity. Until that window comes,
6 minutes post-up.
we're not going to hear that confirmation until that ground station's ready to receive that signal.
Now, Josh,
Copy that.
what
And comm, we're
happened?
expecting 1909 for the visibility.
That's correct.
It's 1909. They're talking in Central Time, so that's 8:07 here on the East Coast. So here, just a couple minutes away, flight controllers are watching their screens, waiting to make that first connection with Athena while she's been autonomously commissioning herself in space. That process of getting to max power attitude, getting her radio pairs on, and making that first call home, all while moving just about 24,000 miles per hour.
She's doing a lot.
That's right.
Now, Josh, what happens if Athena exceeds that time window?
Well, if Athena exceeds that time window, it's okay. She's also programmed to swap radios and antenna pairs to get in a better configuration to make first contact with flight controllers that your folks at home are watching on the left side of your screen. That's Nova Control in Houston, Texas.
Seven minutes, 25 seconds past set.
Copy that.
That's 7 minutes and 25 seconds since we watched
We are
Athena
halfway
separate.
to trip and fitter.
I understand. We should be getting a call shortly from TNOC to connect.
All right, that's a good call from our activity director. That's John Graves, waiting for our ground station to connect to Athena as we continue to watch video from the second stage. That's SpaceX on the right and Intuitive Machines on the left. We'll see, what time do we have here? About 8:08 p.m. Eastern Standard. We're standing by for the ground stations on Earth to receive the signal that we expect. Athena is ready and already making that call back through that autonomous commissioning process. Tahira, you touched on what happens if we don't make this connection. It's going to be all right.
It's okay. Okay, good.
Now, we heard a call from Mission Control talking about a comm fitter being halfway through its cycle. What they're talking about there, Tahira, when we say it'll be okay, it's starting.
Back to me, Goose. Ground out. What are we seeing? Is T-Not giving you any feedback? Come while they're working that. When is visibility open for Okinawa?
1:29.
All right, so we're listening in to when those ground stations will have coverage to connect with Athena in space.
What about DSS-34?
Let's go ahead and toss it back to John and Yome in Hawthorne,
1:15.
California.
In 5 minutes.
We are 9 minutes, 30 seconds past set.
Copy that.
And FM.
Oh,
comes down
thanks,
15
Josh.
minutes and it just swaps towers, right?
Now we're hearing comms in the background right now. Yes. Now, for those of you following along, you'll know that this mission marks our 24th launch of the year. And we're gearing up for the Sphere X and Punch mission, launching from Vandenberg Space Force Base very soon. And in the coming weeks, NASA's Crew 10 mission to the International Space Station.
You can always follow along at SpaceX.com launches for up-to-date missions and schedules. And before we sign off here at SpaceX, let's go back to Tahira and Josh at Kennedy.
Thanks a
Yeah,
lot,
5 minutes
John
come
and
through,
Yome.
Super Dave. So if you think we can do that and get at least a Farm B up there, that would be great.
All right, Tahira, we have exceeded our nominal acquisition of single timing estimate, and flight controllers are starting that new set of procedures that will continue over the next several minutes. They're working to confirm our communications configuration is correct, that the flown trajectory we receive from SpaceX matches those expectations, and that our ground station dish is using the right trajectory. That's been a lot of the timing and things that we've heard in chatter right there in Mission Control.
All right, and we are watching flight controllers in Nova Control right now, working to confirm where Nova sees separated from the launch vehicle and then matching that data to the ground station's dish that's currently working to acquire the lander's signal.
And the team's expected to continue this process for several minutes until Athena's autonomous procedures start a new process. We've heard them call out a couple times of how much time is left until ComFitter, and that is part of that new process to communicate back to Earth. This includes cycling Athena's power systems, switching radios, and swapping antennas to sets that had not been used yet. All at the same time, we're working with SpaceX to confirm a good launch vehicle separation. That means a good translunar orbit. We mentioned that at the
Groundnet,
top
how long
of
would
the
it
show.
take us to configure the DSN data connection?
Go ahead and turn it on. It should be on now.
Okay, Groundnet.
And that's our ground net trying to work the ground stations that are on Earth to make that connection with Athena. But right now, we know that Athena...
Just passing 12 minutes in SEP. We have 4.5 minutes before ComFitter trips.
Copy, thanks, FM.
We know that...
3 minutes. Let's move.
We know that Athena is on a fastball shot toward the moon. That's that translunar orbit. It does give us a lot of flexibility within our flight path.
DSS 34.
And there's some more calls working with those ground stations, enabling the ground stations to make the calls and make that connection with Athena.
Status is start bend.
All right.
We're going to continue to monitor progress inside of Nova Control.
I have command active for DSS 34.
All right.
Telemetry. Setting command off.
All right, so as we continue to monitor progress inside of Nova Control, we're going to pause to continue listening into what folks are saying inside of Mission Control. But let's just recap what happened leading up to and after liftoff from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. We saw liftoff to here just around 7:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we saw a really good shot there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Enabled DSS 34B.
I believe DSS 34B is another ground station within the Deep Space Network, possibly.
Telemetry active.
All right, are we getting updates?
I don't see packets yet.
All right, that's a key word there. We're waiting for packets. That means that we're receiving data packets down from Athena. Just about 8.5 minutes after launch, we did see that great booster
14
landing
minutes past that.
on a drone ship. And then a second stage startup just about 36.5 minutes after launch. We saw Athena at launch vehicle separation.
All right, Groundnet, what do we need to do to get telemetry packets?
I'm not sure. We should be seeing them now.
All right, we're standing by for data packets.